they like, oh yeah, this gonna be the next rapper or the next R&B singer. Because that's what them ninjas take you to the studio for, so they can show off. And then you get hot and bothered and think that, oh, this may be the next big thing. So maybe I should get busy with him now.
I don't hear nobody out there. Hold it down. Hold it down.
Well, hello there, love bugs. Hello there, Bellas. If you have not already done so, please remember to like, share to Facebook, subscribe, and visit uptopbeauty.com. I'm looking down there in the comments, and y'all is burning me up because y'all like, nay, you need to up your inventory. Okay, I hear you. I am working on it, but that doesn't mean that if you haven't bought anything from uptopbeauty.com that you shouldn't go over there and check it out. The next thing is for all my old and new paid book club members. I appreciate you for all you do and sacrifice for me every month. And if you are not already a part of this book club, please hit the Patreon link below and or the join button here on the YouTube. And for a small monthly fee of $5, you babies, yes, you should be privy to all the shenanigans before the YouTube gets it, if the YouTube gets it. Now. Let's continue talking about Faith Evans. Keep the faith. I ran into someone who looked familiar, a fellow musician named Kiyama Griffin. I didn't know him well, but I knew his name and that most people called him, I'm not sure if it's Key or Kai. At Penn Station, Kai and I exchanged a bit of small talk. He had a very round face and dark brown skin. He wore oval-shaped, wire-rimmed glasses. He asked me where I was going, and I told him about Fordham. He told me he was coming back from a recording session with Christopher Williams at a Manhattan studio. What do you usually do after you get out of class? He asked me. Nothing really. I said, just take the train back home. Kai nodded. Are you still singing? Here and there, I said. You know what? You should come to the studio tomorrow after you get out of class. I pushed on the heavy glass door and found myself in a hallway with 2 or 3 doors on either side. A young man who looked about my age walked briskly past me. He was carrying what looked like a guitar in a case on his shoulder. Excuse me, I'm looking for Kai. Hey, Faith, he said. Kai told me you were coming through. Floyd introduced me to a few of the other people in the room, including Ike Lee, a pretty boy from Queens who made the beats for the tracks they produced. The guys were sitting around a mixing board, pushing buttons, playing a track over and over again and trying to come up with lyrics to go with the sound. I think it needs a heavier bass line, Floyd said. He fiddled with some of the knobs on the massive boards in front of him and then replayed the track. See, it should have that funky sound, like this. Can you do me a favor and just sing this verse so we can hear what it sounds like? No problem, I said. As I approached the booth, the guy gave me a sheet of paper with the lyrics on it. That's okay, I don't need it, I told him, because the dudes were singing a song, trying to get it to mix well with the music that they were creating. Remember, Faith has the ability to memorize like that because her aunt had taught her the art of memorization. Okay? Oh, that's a bad one. What Faith does is tell you about the music and the things that surround the music in her life. Okay, so this is a really good book. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This is better than the coldest winter ever. I'd heard them singing the song over and over for the whole evening and had learned the lyric just from sitting there watching. I remember going into the booth chuckling to myself. Back then, people who didn't know me always tended to underestimate what I was capable of once I hit the booth. I could see that, because I'm sure they probably looked at her more so as a face instead of an artist. Over the next few months, I continued to come by the studio on the weekends, and when I wasn't in class, I helped write tracks they were working on and occasionally tried out different vocal arrangements for songs. I eventually met Christopher Williams, who was at the height of his success with his appearance in the movie New Jack City. Ooh, that motherfucker was a monster. I continued to help out, but I didn't expect to be part of their equation. I felt like we were family, but I didn't feel like they owed me anything. I just came to the studio to learn, observe, and absorb what I could. Yeah, I respect Faith for that. And then there was William and JT. Because remember, she's still messing with that married man, William, who wants her to leave JT alone. You know, JT, the psychopath that can't keep his fucking hands off of her. I had been trying to break things off permanently with both of them, but they still like to pop up at my house or at my school unannounced. Once they both showed up on campus at the same time, so being in the studio was a welcome escape. Although I knew it was temporary. There was something very intriguing about Kai. I couldn't figure him out. I would hear that he liked me, but when I saw him, he'd barely speak to me. He'd asked me to come to the studio and then not show up. We'd take the train together and not talk much. Even his smile seemed reversed. But of course, being around someone every day can lead to things happening. Child, oh my God. See, I know where this relationship with Kai is going to go, girl. And girl, I've been there before, Faith. You know how over here the books we read, the authors be over here watching. Okay, they may not drop down, but trust me, they be watching. So anyway, girl. She said one day they was in the studio and it just happened. Okay, okay. It was 19 years old, and before you know it, they kissing and hugging and doing the booty. In the studio. It happens. You know how many women's get D down in the studio? They like, oh yeah, this gonna be the next rapper or the next R&B singer. Because that's what them ninjas take you to the studio for, so they can show off. And then you get hot and bothered and think that, oh, this may be the next big thing. So maybe I should get busy with him. Nah, that's not what Faith was doing. It was just something that happened. Okay, I get it. I mean, if there's some kind of tension there, just get it out the way, especially when you're young, because you don't even understand what you're doing. Because I'm sure not one time did she say in this book so far that she was getting the O. After the second or third time we messed around, I noticed that my period was late. I really didn't think I could be pregnant. I'd been irresponsible in other sexual relationships and hadn't gotten pregnant. I assumed that I wouldn't be able to get pregnant because of the complications from the sexually transmitted disease I'd contracted from JT. The doctor told me I probably wouldn't be able to get pregnant. And indeed, in the time that had passed since JT, I'd never gotten pregnant in other relationships. So when I took a home pregnancy test in the bathroom at my grandmother's house, I was completely freaked out when it came back positive. What? They had home pregnancy tests in the early 90s? I don't know, Faith. Well, wait. Wasn't they doing something with rabbits back then? Like chopping off their foot or something to see if a lady was pregnant? Y'all know what I'm talking about, when they would do something with the rabbit. Found it. No wonder they said that it was torturous. The term rabbit test was first recorded in 1949 and was the origin of a common euphemism. The rabbit died for a positive pregnancy test. I knew I wasn't crazy. I think I seen that shit on an episode of MASH one time, though. I don't know, I ain't gonna worry about it, but child, they round there killing rabbits in Faith House. So when I took a home pregnancy test in the bathroom at my grandmother's house, I was completely freaked out. When it came back positive, I went to the doctor and it was confirmed I was pregnant. This was a problem. We weren't in love. He was cool and we hung out in the studio together, but that was the extent of our relationship. There were no movies and Italian dinners like with JT. And there was no performing together at weddings like when I was with William. I mean, I liked Kai, but it was more the mystique that drew me in. I wanted to like him and I wanted to get to know him. I just went a little too far in my quest to feel him out. I ended up pregnant when I really just wanted to get to know him a little better. Girl, let me tell you something, girl. What you was doing was the same shit I did. The same shit. Just making a whole lot of dumbass mistakes with my body because Faith is telling us that she got around. Buck up, buck up. I like the way she's doing it. She's not focusing on all the dick she had, and more so focusing on the lessons she learned from certain dicks. My grandmother just shook her head. Here I was, 18 years old in my first year of college on an academic scholarship and pregnant by someone she hadn't even met. She had bigger and better expectations for me, and I knew that. I decided I would tell Kai about the pregnancy and let him know that I was planning to terminate. I was at my grandmother's house when I called the apartment he shared with his mother in the Brick Towers housing projects. You don't have to worry about it, I told him. I'm getting an abortion. No, you're not, Kai said. I was speechless for a second and then collected myself. What do you mean? I asked. Me and you are not really like that. It don't make sense for me to be having a baby by you. It doesn't make sense, he said. You're not getting an abortion. We're moving to California. You're having my baby and I'm going to marry you. California is the land of opportunity for so many people who aspire to be a part of the business. And him and his crew have plans to move to the West Coast so that they can assimilate themselves with the people. In all honesty, we weren't in a relationship, and I knew that I wasn't a part of any plans to move to California. But now I was pregnant, and Kai wanted me to come with him. The whole thing was bizarre, and the very idea made my head swim. Would I even consider dropping out of college, moving to Los Angeles, and having a baby? It seemed like such a leap from what my life was like at that point. And the more I thought about it, the more tempting it sounded. I wasn't thrilled with college. I was working my ass off and my grades were decent. I get it. But I just wasn't into school. I think part of it was because I didn't live on campus, so I wasn't getting the full experience. I feel that way about UDC because it was a commute school. There were no dorms. It was like a community school. Everybody went home at the end of the day. And I think I didn't really respect college the way I should have my first and second year because of that very same reason. I had gotten to the point where I was ready to see how the world worked for myself. It was right around the time that Kai offered a new way of life that I had been having these thoughts, which made it even more tempting to accept his offer and move to Los Angeles. It wasn't just my thoughts that seemed to outgrow my grandparents' house. Physically, I felt like the house was crowding me too. With so many people in and out, it was harder and harder for me to carve out my own space. Now that I was in college, I wanted more privacy, and that just wasn't happening in a place like my grandparents' house. I knew that ultimately my family would always be there for me, but in that moment, I was ready to see what else was out there. My whole reason for going to college was so that I could get a decent job and then get my own place. But now Kai was offering a shortcut to my original plan. And the idea of me being on my own was very appealing. The more he asked me, the more I started to think about it seriously. I spent the summer hanging out with my friends, and I was still going into the studio with Kai and Christopher Williams and the crew as they prepared to relocate. In the meantime, I had to swallow my pride and apply for welfare. I hated it, but I knew it was just temporary. I didn't have a plan mapped out. I just felt like it would somehow all work itself out. Before I went out to LA, there was one big hump in the road that disappointed me but didn't deter me. I'd gone to see Kai's mother, who lived in Newark with his brother, Wendell. We were talking about the baby, and I told her about how her son said he wanted to marry me. She just chuckled and said something about Kai being 3 years younger than me. I was stunned. I was 19, and Kai was 16.